Hi, this is Jackie Sawicki.
And Jeffrey Sawicki.
And we are here to talk about permaculture and working towards becoming self-sufficient in the suburbs, in an urban landscape, or wherever you may be.
Why are we doing this?
The list is a long one. First of which is to save money and lessen our dependence on big agriculture, which is factory farms, CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations. There's no longer farms, there's factories, and those are a huge drain on our resources and our treasure. One of the biggest culprits in California drought right now is the agriculture industry. Also, to lessen our carbon footprint, your food travels very far to get to you unless you are making a concerted effort to get food locally. There's a lot of oil and gas in the production, transportation, and raising of the most food that we consume. It's also a lot healthier. The soil's been so depleted in modern factory farming, monocrops, and using fake fertilizer to synthesize growth rather than actually putting nutrients and good stuff back into the soil. They just fake it with, again, petroleum-based synthetic fertilizers that are wreaking havoc on the oceans and waterways. It's healthier because we are enriching our soil. We're constantly giving back to the soil through compost, worm compost, chickens. Gardening itself is actually kind of strenuous in a good way. So we're actually getting exercise and we're synthesizing vitamin D. And there's a huge vitamin D deficiency in America right now. One of the simplest and most efficient ways of getting your vitamin D is going outside in the sun. I know it sounds so scary. It's also convenient. You want to talk about convenience food, open your back door and go out to your kitchen garden and pick a salad or ingredients for tonight's dinner. That is convenience. That's ultimate convenience. Also, gardening is incredibly meditative, and when you really start to think about the complex systems, the fact that in a teaspoon of soil there's more life than humans on the planet, it's profound.
So, Jackie, what have we done so far?
We've done a lot. The first being mulched. I could talk for hours and hours about mulching, and we will probably have a podcast all about mulching, but that's the first thing we did. We killed our lawn. Conserves water and allows the water to go back into the water table instead of running off into our municipal waterways. So that's huge. The first thing you could do, and the first thing that we did, was mulched our lawn. We realized last night we've been gardening for 10 years now, but we came to permaculture a little later. And so we've just now started planting our perennial food forest, but that's a big one. We're planting fruit trees, berries, bushes, vines, pretty extensive collection of herbs that come back every year or that are evergreen that don't die back. We've got 10 plus raised garden beds that we're cultivating annuals in. We've inoculated every seed and plant that's gone into the ground with Fungi Perfecti's fungi.com product MycoGrow. We've also got several compost bins, one specifically acidic for the blueberry and strawberry bed. We just recently got chickens, and those guys are going to produce eggs for us, and they're free range, and they are specifically, I'm really hoping that they get our pest problem, because I have yet to really get that under control, because it's Texas and they're pretty brutal. We've got a worm bin, so we're vermicomposting, which is very exciting. And we try to upcycle, recycle, buy used. That's a really important part of permaculture, is kind of to opt out of the consumer model.
So, what plans do we have for the future?
I'm really excited about solar. I really, really want to do that. I don't know how feasible that is this year, but that's really big. We would also like to make what's called a sun hive, an apicentric beehive that puts the bees' needs first as an ideal habitat, and then the production of honey for human consumption is a secondary, if that's at all important. So, but it's mainly about nurturing the bees, and it's woven, and I'm very excited. It's really pretty, and we can make it ourselves. We'd also like to do a little free library. That is an exchange of information and ideas. Food is free stand, again, sharing the abundance. I also want to do a little more wild foraging. We can identify some stuff. It's fun. You can go mushroom hunting after a good rain, but I'd like to find some nice places to go wild foraging. I also want to maybe refood the forest. Instead of seed bombs, maybe food bombs. Foods like throw tomato out there in the woods. Throw your apples. Instead of composting them, save up those seeded fruits and veggies and maybe go dump them in the woods somewhere. Is that legal? I'm also interested in a self-seeding garden. There are plenty of plants that will readily and easily self-seed, and I'd like to experiment with maybe setting aside part of the garden somewhere and just letting stuff come back year after year on their own and see what sticks. And those will be even more adapted to our climate. We want to end the use of plastics in the house, and they did a plastic grocery bag ban in Dallas. I don't know how we can still have them in the grocery store, but they're still there. But we can personally end our use of plastics. And many more trees and perennials. I just got a grip of seeds yesterday. Plenty of planting in the future.
What are some inspirations that you have in the garden?
Jimmy Carter's huge. I read his biography as a young boy growing up on a peanut farm, and I want to grow peanuts in honor of Jimmy Carter. Shiva Vandana, the Indian activist who's fighting for all of us. Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture. He's got some really great quotes. You have got to Google him if you're not familiar with Bill Mollison. Dirt, the movie, based off of the book Dirt, the Ecstatic Skin of the Earth. That movie explains just how incredible soil is. We'll just leave it there. Your family, Jeffrey, your family grows their own food right now. And that's incredibly inspiring when you eat for the first time out of someone's garden. When I was younger, our family grew crops like vegetables in a little backyard garden, traveling to other places, I went to Canada or Greece or Belgium, and there's so much greenery and there's food everywhere. In Greece, there's just wild pomegranate trees and lemon trees all over the place. We're actually in Texas as well, which has a very strong agricultural history. Michael Pollan, he's a famous writer and activist. The Food is Free Project, Grow Food Not Lawns. I support them very strongly, and I encourage everyone, if you're not using your Bermuda grass or energy resource hog that is your front yard, to mulch it over, feed some people. I'm also inspired by the '08 crash. That's when we actually switched focus from growing flowers and pretty herbs and stuff to actually trying seriously to feed ourselves and to feed others. I guess the biggest inspiration also would be nature herself, nature itself. There's nothing more inspiring or awe-inspiring as growing something from seed. It makes you think that about us, we were grown from seed too.
So, what are we hoping to accomplish with the podcast?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to learn from others. I'd like this to be an exchange of information. I'd also like to share positivity instead of just everything's doom and gloom with no solutions. This is concrete solutions that make a real difference in your life, your community life. And the more we do it, the bigger that ripple will get. I want to introduce people to the idea of opting out, and I'll do a show on that one as well. But just trying our best to be producers rather than just consumers. Global climate change is real, and permaculture has been talking about this since the mid-1970s and how to mitigate the negative effects, how we're going to survive these crazy weather patterns. Food security. There will be another crash. It's a matter of when, not if. And people will lose their jobs again. But if we grow our own food, or we have a sharing economy where we can share the abundance, then at least the food will be taken care of. At least the children won't be going hungry. Because right now, half of the people that are, quote, food insecure in America, half of those people are children. And that's a big reason why we started gardening for food. Also, health benefits. Gardening, you're synthesizing vitamin D, you're eating better foods. Since we've started gardening, we've eaten stuff that we'd never eaten before, like arugula or bok choy kind of stuff. The health benefits of gardening can't be understated. Vitamin D synthesis, again, like I said, there's a huge deficiency, which is just, it's ironic if it wasn't so sad. Losing weight, it's strenuous. Eating right, it's all part of it. Preventative medicine is eating whole foods, feeding your gut microbes, and they eat that fiber that is insoluble and that we can't digest. We're feeding our gut biome. That goes along with healing thyself as well. There are a lot of illnesses. Most of the top killers in America are preventative illnesses that can 100% be prevented with a healthy exercise and real eating real food. Even exercise, take out the exercise out of the equation, eating real food, and you'll prevent a lot of cancer, a lot of heart disease, even maybe Alzheimer's. Children and pesticides. Parents even trying to do the right thing by feeding their children fresh fruits and vegetables. If it's not organic, they're introducing a lot of toxic chemicals into their children's bloodstream. I read an article that said you can eliminate 16 chemicals from your children's bloodstream immediately by switching to organic food. I read that and I wanted to just get a bullhorn and go on a street corner and tell everybody, because to me I'm doing this to beg people to stop supporting these companies that are ruining our health, that are ruining our nation, that are ruining our ecological resources, and probably the planet as a whole. Every time you spend money on these products, you're contributing. We're supporting that. So I want to beg people to stop using Roundup, stop using Scott's, Miracle Grow, all that stuff. Mama did it better. There are natural alternatives that don't have harmful side effects that are going to be great for your garden, and we can show you how. I also want to collaborate. I guess that goes back to learning from others, but we build off of each other. And the sharing and cooperative economy rather than the competitive where there's got to be a loser. It sounds utopian, but there really doesn't have to be a loser. Like, if we all just try to be less of consumers and more producers, there'll be more than we can. Right now, there's more. We waste 40% of the food that's produced every day is thrown away. That is shameful. There are better ways to do it. And also, I was a Girl Scout, and we were taught to leave things better than how you found them. So I want to try to incorporate that into this podcast and gardening and everything else that goes along with it.
So Jackie, what are some of the topics we're going to be talking about in future shows?
That too is a very long list. I'm starting with permaculture and organics 101, followed by observations, composting 101, vermicompost or worm bins, worm composting. We're going to do a show on chickens 101, DIY home products, like we make deodorant ourselves, lip balms, toothpaste, all that kind of good stuff. I'm going to share some recipes on that. Mulching for the win. Again, mulching, cannot say enough good stuff about mulching. Amending our soils. I didn't talk about rock dust, but that's another cool one. Annual vegetable gardens. I do kind of want this to be specific to North Texas because our climate is so unique. Maybe every climate is unique, but we're pretty fortunate. But I want to have different shows on what you should be planting right this minute. Perennials, getting that perennial food forest started. I want to talk about citrus trees specifically in North Texas, and also fruit trees, nut trees. We're going to do a show on little free libraries, choosing soil, choosing your location, and which soil is right for that location. Choosing seeds, why you should be planting organic, heirloom, open-pollinated seeds versus hybrids. And we're going to talk about opting out, like I said. We're going to do a show on how to save seeds, how to plant different seeds, how to plant trees, how to plant bare-rooted roots that you got online and that kind of stuff. It's works. Everything's a little different. Container gardening. Every year we do a pretty big container garden in addition to all of the raised beds because it's fun and it's a little more mobile and you can change stuff around. I'm going to do a show on all the inspirations I talked about, but there will be links on this show. We are going to talk about bird gardening or birding. We're going to talk about bees and butterfly gardens, how to attract beneficials to your garden. We're going to do a rain barrel. Jeffrey's going to lead the way on that one as he made my rain barrels for us. Herbs for North Texas. We have a pretty extensive herb collection and we love our medicinal, smokable, edible herbs, and I can't wait to show you that stuff on video. We're going to do edible flowers. We have a collection of edible flowers. I love just going around picking flower petals and eating them. We're going to talk about themed gardens, wild foraging, self-seeding gardens like we talked about, and wild cultivation. And that's just the start. That's just off the top of my head. As a final thought, I wanted to just encourage y'all to get started now. There's a great Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. Time flies. Before you know it, it'll be 3 years and you're getting asparagus or peaches or plums, fig, all kinds of good stuff. Also, nothing that I've shared here is original. I'm just learning and I want to share. The best way to learn something is to teach others, right? I'd really appreciate any feedback. I also invite you all to visit our Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, Asteri Acres and the Asteri Agency. I also encourage you all to do your own research into permaculture. Some of the founders and visionaries and people that are doing really great stuff all over the world. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listen to the future podcasts that we have planned. And thanks again. Get gardening.